Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. Well, you may have heard this. Nevada caucus is tomorrow. So we've got two different reports from the ground in Nevada. Jonathan Easley and Dan Marins are going to tell us what they are seeing there. We've also got Hill editor-in-chief Bob Cusack to talk about some of the freak out on the Democratic side now that they realize maybe Bloomberg isn't going to be the great savior from Bernie Sanders that they had thought. But speaking of Bloomberg, some very new, interesting reporting from Politico.
That's right. Politico has a story out last. I mean, they basically confirmed what we all know. Basically says Bloomberg is quietly plotting brokered convention strategy, and they detail how his team is privately lobbying Democratic Party officials and donors allied with moderate opponents to flip their allegiance to him and block Bernie Sanders in the event of a brokered national convention. So, Krystal, I mean, we already knew that this was happening, but here it is in direct plain view. Now, to be fair, according to this Politico story, Bloomberg is not the only person who's plotting for a Democratic broker convention. Shocker, given the answer that we saw up there on the stage. But he's got the best campaign infrastructure. He's got the money in order to donate to whomever he needs to. We know that he's going to be here all the way until the end of this race. One of the things I want to highlight throughout the show is in such dire straits the money situation is for Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
So we got the financial numbers yesterday. Elizabeth Warren spent $2 for every $1 that she brought in. Only has $2.3 million in the bank, and had to take out a $2 million line of credit. Very bad situation. Her and Pete Buttigieg have not had a single ad up on the air in a Super Tuesday state because they have no money. So it just goes to show they may talk a big game. I don't know if they're going to survive to a broker convention because they have no money. They can barely afford to travel right now.
Right. I mean, I will say Elizabeth Warren put out a press release about how much money she brought in during the debate. It was like $2.8 million. Right. So that debate performance is going to help her be able to survive longer. But it does go to show you, too, like some of these candidates were all in on Iowa and New Hampshire, while the Sanders team in particular was looking beyond that, setting up because they had the money to do it. And they also have done this before. You know, I mean, the fact that they've been to this rodeo before makes a big difference because last election cycle, they were the ones running from state to state, trying to figure it out as they went. Now they're in a different position. Those things really, really make a difference. But on the Bloomberg superdelegate piece, this is fast becoming the most important question in this election. I mean, with Bernie Sanders continuing to lead in the polls, continuing to move upward in the polls, continuing to look like he's got certainly the edge in Nevada, closing the gap in South Carolina, potentially can win there, ahead in a lot of Super Tuesday states, et cetera. It's increasingly becoming a question of, number one, can he win a majority of the delegates to avoid this whole catastrophe? And number two, are they going to try to steal it from him at the convention? We got the most important indicator at the debate first. Both you and I are going to talk a little bit more about that in our radars. But to get this inside look about how they're trying to subvert the process and give it and invalidate all of these elections that we're talking about right now, they want to invalidate all of that and say that what you, the voters, think doesn't matter to us at all. All we care about is being able to snooker these elites and convince them and kiss their butts and win them over so that they back us on the second ballot. That is their whole game. Super Tuesday ads, they don't care. All they need is to be able to win over, is to be able to block Bernie from getting a majority and then try to win over these super delegates. That is their whole game.
And we got the most definitive answer. That's what we've been speculating here. Will they do it? Will they try and do it? Yeah, they are.
They're trying to do it right now.
Literally lining it up. Bloomberg's campaign team, as I've known from the beginning, is very, very smart, and they were going to go after, they're perfectly poised to go after these superdelegates. I covered in the show yesterday, I think Lee Fang from The Intercept had reported that 8 of them are like registered lobbyists for the financial industry, which is hilarious. And then, of course, I mean, I don't even remember what percentage of them voted for Hillary Clinton, the superdelegates, last time around. So whenever it all comes to this, it's very clear that Bloomberg is in the best position in order to solidify his support amongst these people to try and swing it on the second ballot, and very well could could, right?
Although we have to say, if he continues to perform like he did at the debate this week, that's going to be a problem for him.
He would be a fool to keep going to the debates. If I were him, I'd just be like, I'm
good here. Yeah. But I mean, Bernie Sanders was on with Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes, making this exact point about how, listen, guys, if you go with Bloomberg, this isn't going to go so well for you in the general election. Let's take a listen to that.
Were you surprised by how unprepared he seemed for some very basic, obvious questions at the debate in Nevada?
I was. And if that's what happened in a Democratic debate, I think it's quite likely that Trump will chew him up and spit him out.
Are you less worried about Michael Bloomberg? If you were worried about him before, are you less worried now after having that debate?
I am worried about an unprecedented amount of money being spent on a campaign. And, we've never seen anything like this in American history. And I just think, though, that the American people will rebel against this type of oligarchic movement. We are a democracy. One person, one vote, not a guy worth $60 billion buying an election.
And, that point that he made about electability is the most important thing with Bloomberg, even more than, look, the comments about women are abhorrent, stop and frisk, horrifying. I mean, many, many bad policy positions. But the reason why people were starting to gravitate towards him is because they were buying the narrative that he was the one to beat Trump. Yep. So the fact that he's going right after that in a very clear and compelling way, that is the message right there. That is the one.
Yeah, it's the right strategy to go against him. And that's the only, that's the thing is Bernie has to play to the cravenness of the Dem elites who would go to Bloomberg in the first place by not being like, you can't take their money because this is anti-democratic. He has to be like, no, we can't win if you
because they don't care about anything else.
Yeah, they don't really care about anything else. I guess that's the real question, is whether they're going to believe, whether they're going to see Bernie as so much of a threat to their own, like you said, gig flow, the amount of money that comes in, the way the entire Democratic establishment operates, rather than pick Bloomberg and possibly lose. I know from the Republican side that most of the Republican machine in Washington would have preferred that Trump lose and Hillary won. Yeah. Because everybody was very prepared for Hillary win. It's easy, right?
That's
fundraise
standard.
A whole lot of money about how she's the most evil person in the world, and everybody gets to keep their job, but you don't actually have any power.
Right.
And I suspect the Democratic establishment's probably in the exact same boat.
I think you're right about that. It's interesting. I was on CNN on noonday this morning. It was actually a relatively fair segment, but the whole framing of the segment was, can Bernie win over moderates and conservatives? And I was on with Ana Navarro, never Trump Republican. Can he win over people like you? And look, it's a legitimate question to ask. I talked about how he has demonstrated throughout his electoral history an ability to do that. But it's never framed the other way. It's never asked a Bloomberg dude, these young people loathe you. How are you going to inspire them to turn out, right? Progressives cannot stand you. How are you going to get them on board? How are you going to unify the party? It is never asked in that direction, and he has a much bigger challenge on his hands. Bernie Sanders is very popular with the Democratic Party base. He's not a Democrat, stupid complaints notwithstanding. Right. He is very popular with the Democratic base. He is more popular with the Democratic base than any other candidate in this race. So if they actually cared about electability, the case against Bloomberg is incredibly strong. But I think you're right. It's not really what they care about. What they care about is keeping their ability to hold on to power, even if that means a loss to Trump. They know what to do. They know how to roll that playbook. 4 more years of outrage and Russiagate, and
make a lot of money.
Maybe impeach him again. Keep your cable news contract, all that stuff.
There are a lot of people whose only relevance is being anti-Trump. That's a pretty bad place to be if Bernie's about to become the nominee, and you've also spent a lot of time bashing him. Like I said, being anti-Hillary in this town was the easiest gig in the entire world.
Yeah.
You could mail it in. They've been doing it for 20 years.
Yep.
Then Trump won. Now they all disappeared from TV. Some of them even have fake media startups now where they're trying to be never Trump and reasonable.
Some of them just decided to, get on board the train, make the craven choice, and pretend to be Trumpers. We have some good news this morning.
We do.
Little book update. So we are officially international bestsellers,
That's
number
right.
5 on Publishers Weekly's book list of
And that's
bestsellers.
going to go up.
Pretty
That's
cool.
going to go up because
Yeah,
it
that's
hasn't
just-
updated correctly.
Yeah, that's it's there's a big lag on the data, so we expect it to go up. We just want to thank you guys for the interest in the book, for the positive comments you've left, the positive reviews that you've left, the pictures that you've shared. It means a lot to us. I mean, we say this a lot, but I personally felt very alone in my politics until you all,
certainly did.
found the show and told us how much it meant to you and how much you shared our views and how important it was to you. It's equally important to us. So thank you guys so much for that.
It really is. I love seeing the pictures from everywhere, from Waikiki Beach to
That's right.
the beaches in Australia to Hungary, Bologna, Italy, and even right here at home. It's just amazing. Yesterday, somebody sent me a picture of one of you watching Rising on the DC Metro. So you're
Love
everywhere.
that.
Love it.
Love that. Thank
Yeah.
you guys so much. And we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That is next.